So we were talking a little bit about routine a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned that with back to school comes routine. So Declan and I, we drive here to the church in the morning, park in the parking lot, and then I walk him to the school next door. We just had the entire summer off, and literally the first day walking to school, we just kind of got into our routine again. And I turned to him and I said, "It feels like we were just doing this. Like it feels like it was yesterday that I was walking you to school. It feels so familiar." And as a man, let me just say, as a man, I love familiar. Like I love routine. I even kind of like boring. I do. As a man, I like boring. I don't need a lot to be happy. I really don't. And I mean, during the day, I know where my kids are. I know where my wife is. And she knows where I am. I know that on Tuesday and Wednesday I have this to do. And so there's things on the calendar that always happen, and it's kind of comforting, And sure, I've got long-range goals. We all do. But most of us, we just have these daily tasks that keep us going. But just before the school year overtakes us, and before Christmas gets here, and before soccer practice and karate, and before all the new fall TV shows come on, I think the most important question that we can ask right now is, where is my heart? Where is my heart? Before this all starts. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about babies, and we talked about how you can put a shiny object in front of a baby, and then the baby crawls towards it, right? And that we kind of we still do that as adults. We make our way towards the shiny object. Jesus says in Matthew 6, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So I asked, where is my heart? But I think before we can ask that question, before we can answer that question, we have to ask, well, where is my treasure, right? Where is my treasure? Is it our grandkids? Is it our kids? Is it our job, our marriage, our home? Is it just the idea of happiness? Those are all good. Those things are certainly in my treasure box. But just before this year gets out of reach and our Google Calendar fills up with all the activities, let's just ask, where does God fit in all of this? Before the routine takes us over, where does God fit in? Because when life starts rolling forward, I don't know about you, but oftentimes it just feels like I'm trying to build the tent, and then the wind comes and knocks it over, and then I'm trying to build the tent, and the wind comes and knocks it over, and it's just like this perpetual game of catch-up. I want to enjoy life, right? I want to enjoy my tent. I want to enjoy all the things that I've built, but it just takes a while to get everything set up. And I realize that there's tools that'll help us. There's life tools that will help us. And, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're not just grabbing for the same things we always grab for. So I want to talk a little bit about willpower, okay? Willpower. Because I know the beginning of the year is so far away and we're not even thinking about our what do you do at the beginning of the year? You make a... Yeah, we're not thinking about... See, we already forgot them. We already forgot our resolutions. If you're trying to quit smoking, you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to find more peace and quiet, or in any way change your life, we first try willpower, like good old willpower. And let me just ask you a question. Why do we always begin with willpower? Why is that where we start? Has it ever worked? Have you ever kept a New Year's resolution all year? Have you ever really changed your life solely from willpower alone? Because I think we want to grow and we want to change as people. We all do. And we want more than just some new shiny object that's just out of reach. We want a life change. We want our lives to mean something. We want our life to have impact. But we're talking about how babies grow a second ago. How do babies grow? How do they grow up? How do they mature? Do they use willpower? No. Helping a child grow up usually involves crying, and a lot of mess, right? It's work, isn't it? It's work. You just can't lock your teenager in the backyard and say, you can come back inside after you've grown up. Although, that would be, no. Babies learn to eat, and they learn to use the potty, and it's messy. Losing teeth, messy, painful. Probably a little bit of bleeding involved. Learning to walk, learning to ride a bike, messy. Probably a little bit of bleeding involved, right? But whatever it's like, we need others. We need other people to help us grow. And that never changes, whether you're a baby or a teenager or an adult. We need community. We need family. We need a support system. We can't do life by ourselves. And as we become mature adults, then our needs change. We shift to role models, right? And teachers, coaches, drill sergeants, college professors, mentors, good books, great pastors. All of these things help us to learn to love better and express our feelings better. We experience faith better in ways that we never thought possible. And as we grow up, it didn't really involve a lot of willpower. It actually involved a lot of work and a lot of decision making. And I remember when I fell off my bike one of the last times, and I was, with friends, and your first thought is, this is where I start to cry, right? And your parents aren't around, you're hanging out with your friends, and then something inside of you says, this time I'm not going to, right? You just make that decision, and you just say, I'm with my friends, we're having fun, I fell off my bike. My parents usually just say, it's okay, get back on the bike. And so I'm just going to do that on my own, and I'm not going to cry this time. And you just smile, and you pick up your bike, and you laugh it off. And when you get back on the bike, you think, oh, that was easy, right? And then you just have the courage to do it again the next time. I didn't will myself not to cry. I made a decision, and it took a little bit of inward work, and then the next time it just got easier and easier and easier. Your faith and your spiritual life has to grow as well, and it's going to take work. And it's going to involve willpower, but maybe not a lot. Because I think what happens is we come to church on Sunday, we hear a really good pep talk, right? And we think, that's a great idea. I want to do that. I should try that. Or I wish I just had more time for fill in the blank. Prayer, Bible study. I wish I knew people from church better. Or I wish, we could hang out with people from church in a different way. We want that. We desire that. And I think everyone here, we want to grow in Christ and to develop and cultivate spiritual maturity, to dig deeper and to worship God higher. But life has us in a routine, and we're kind of already stuck. We're all busy trying to build this tent, and the wind keeps knocking it over, and it's harder and harder to get the tent poles in, and the darn thing keeps blowing away. I think sometimes Sunday mornings just reinforces the fact that we're stuck. We listen to something good and we think, man, I really want to do that. And then you remember, oh yeah, I have to go back to work on Monday. And we feel more comfortable just playing church and going through the motions. The pastor reminds us there's Bible studies and there's classes and ways to serve. And inwardly, we want all of those things. We do. But we can't will ourselves to change. Maybe secretly we want our husband to make the first move. We want him to say, honey, we're going to become more active in church. And you're like, thank you, right? But year after year, the school year starts, and every new year looks like the last. Why? Because it's the road we always take. We take the path of familiarness. We take the path of routine. We take the path of ease. We take the path that we've already traveled. We desire to be more loving. We desire to be more spiritually mature. We desire to be different and to grow in our faith and to help the church grow. We desire to get more out of life. Find more quiet time, more God time, more family time, less TV time, and less internet time. We want change. But willpower and desire is not enough. Here, look what Jesus says in John 6. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall not thirst. Jesus says he has the things to give us that will help us truly live, right? Jesus says being fed, satisfying your desires, is found in him. Look at what else he says. He says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I come that they may have life and have it abundantly. So the world wants to steal life. The world wants to kill life. You put your kid in soccer because we want them to learn team building and friendly competition and to exercise and to breathe fresh air. And we join the school parents club to meet other parents and to kind of work to help our school. We stay after work to help our boss with projects so that boss will notice this and maybe we'll get a raise. But guess what? None of that stuff will help you grow closer to God, right? And please don't think I'm trying to condemn after-school sports or parents groups or trying a little harder at work. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is if that's all that's going on in your life, if your only outside activity is just more school, more sports, and more work, then there's no willpower in the world that will change your life. The world has already taken your life. And the world has taken your free time. The world has taken your checkbook. No amount of sitting here and listening to me talk is ever going to change your life, no matter how awesome I am. In theory. Jesus says the world wants to take your life. Is that true? How much of your life is already being given away to the world? Aren't DVRs great? I love my DVR. I haven't watched a commercial in 5 years. I watch less commercials. Guess what? That just means I watch more television, right? Because when I watch more TV, and then I end up watching TV with my phone in my hand, so I'm watching TV and surfing Facebook and Instagram on my phone, I veg out for hours, and my brain says, right, it's releasing that dopamine, and it's saying, go ahead, you deserve this. You worked hard all day. You need to take a break. And you're like, yeah, I do. Jesus says the world wants to take your life. Is that true? So what's the good news? The good news is Jesus wants to give you life. Jesus wants to give you a life, and then a life that's the fullest it can possibly be. 1 John 4 says, in this the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. Jesus came to earth to teach us how to love. He came to earth to teach us how to live. Did he walk around, like when we read the Gospels, do we see Jesus continually walking around looking at people and going, man, you guys have got this right. You guys don't need me. This is great. You guys are doing awesome. Good job. Do we see that going on? No. Actually, he tells everybody, especially who? The religious people, right? The people that study the scriptures, the people that hated him the most. He tells everybody, you've got this all wrong. And he grabs a couple of students. He grabs some disciples and some apprentices. And he says, okay, let's learn how to live from me. Let's learn how to love from me. And you and I, we have the Holy Spirit now. So we have this same opportunity. We can do the same thing. We can apprentice under the master of living. Can you imagine if one of your business heroes or one of your financial heroes, a famous chef or a CEO, can you imagine if some famous photographer or some famous fitness guru took you aside and said, I want to pour into you for free. I want to give you my time. I want to give you my resources. How many of us have desired for years that we want to change and to be better and to be like our heroes, and willpower isn't taking us there? You ask any person in this room who's made $1 million, okay, that if they made their first million with willpower. Ask anyone in here who's ever made it to their goal weight, reached their goal weight, and if it happened with willpower. My family made a goal this year. We are all going to run a race next year. At the beginning of the year, though, at the beginning of the year, Joanna and I are going to run our first 5K, and Declan and Dermot are also entering races for their age level as well. So every day we're working towards that goal. Willpower is not going to take us there. Willpower will not help you run a 5K. And we're not wishing, we're working. You watch what you eat, you exercise. How many of us used willpower to get into college? Or willpower when you moved across the country with your family? How many of you used willpower when you found your spouse? How many of you used willpower when you got married? Does life change with willpower? Jesus says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, and yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Now, a lot of people don't like this verse because, well, in America, we don't understand hate the way the Hebrews do. Actually, it's a saying, okay? The Greek word here is meseo. Meseo is not hate like you and I would say, I hate mushrooms on pizza, which I do. Meseo is a Hebrew expression that means you desire it less or you love it less. In other words, Jesus is saying you have to rearrange your life. You have to rearrange your priorities. When this divine appointment comes knocking at the door, you have to answer it. Rearrange your life, allow some disruption, and say, I'm going to answer this door. I'm going to open this door. Listen, there's a lot of people who claim to be Christians today. It doesn't mean that they live their life any differently, though. I could not line up every person in Walden and then begin to pull them out by saying, okay, you're a Christian and you're not, by how they live their life. The problem is not Christianity. The problem is not Jesus. G.K. Chesterton wrote, Christianity has not been tried and found false. Christianity has been found difficult and not tried. The difficult part is not growing. It's not hard to grow. You just have to be willing to get messy and put the work in. It's not hard to put up a tent nowadays either. Tents are really easy to put up. You don't even have to do it perfectly. You don't even have to have tools. You just have to roll up your sleeves and actually do it. Jesus says in John 15, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. How much of that is willpower? Jesus says, nothing. You can't do anything with willpower, right? And I didn't say this. I didn't say any of these verses. Don't throw old fruit at me. Jesus says you stay plugged into the branch. You stay plugged into the branch, and then what happens? Fruit happens, right? Jesus says he will feed us. Jesus says he will give us an abundant life. Jesus says our lives will actually bear fruit. If what? If we stay plugged in. If we're following. If we're obedient. Not just if we want it really badly. Desire isn't enough. Willpower is not enough. Here's why, and I spoke a little bit about this a while ago. All of our life, we have been learning how to live. That's what we're all doing. We are all students of learning how to live. That's why we all love giving advice, right? This is how I've learned to live. So I want you to take that advice and learn how I've done life. We study under others, whether it's career or parenting or teaching, and we learn from everywhere. We learn in school, but we also learn from movies. We learn from music. All of that together, it forms how we live. And that's our system, right? So our current system works perfectly for achieving the results that you're getting, right? Our system works perfectly for getting those results. But if you want discipleship, if you want spiritual growth, if you want abundant life, if you want to be a blessing to others, you want to take the blessing that God's given you and you want to give it to others. If you want to build a beautiful community, if you want to build a beautiful marriage, if you want to build a beautiful church, then we have to be willing to try something new. John 8, Jesus says to the Jews who had believed in him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples. If you want to grow, you need new practices. You need new habits. And so are we willing to rearrange our life in order to learn from the master of living? Are we ready to be intentional about growing? Are we ready to be everything that God wants us to be? Jesus says, if you want fruit, then abide. If you want to be my disciple, then abide. Abide is the Greek word meno. Meno means stay. It means stay. It means don't leave, don't walk off, don't run away. Remain. It means keep going. It means continue. It means keep going. Remember, we're building a tent that's going to last, a tent that's going to stay. How do you keep a tent stay? How do you keep a tent from blowing away? A while back, now it seems like forever ago, like 4 weeks ago, we read Isaiah 54. It says, "Sing, O barren one who did not bear, break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor, for the children of the desolate one will be more than the children of her who is married, says the Lord. So enlarge the place of your tent." Remember, we reach out. "Let the curtains of your habitats be stretched out. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes." How do you keep a tent from blowing away? Stakes. What do you do first before you do anything? You put stakes down first, right? Why? Well, stakes mark off boundaries. Boundaries say, this is how big tent is, right? This is my area. Boundaries say, my life goes here and here and here and here, and my life doesn't go anywhere else. Boundaries are good. How do you put stakes down? Because you put them down with a hammer, typically, because you want them to go down deep. There's a lot of topsoil on the surface. You don't want your stakes in the topsoil. You want it down deep in the hard stuff. Stakes are going to ensure that life isn't shallow, life isn't meaningless, life isn't pointless. Stakes ensure that we're not just spinning our wheels. Why do you put stakes down? Because it makes everything stable, right? When the winds of life roll through and the storms come, the stake says, my life's not going anywhere, right? Jesus says you build your house on the rock. Matthew 7, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who builds his house on a rock." What shape is a house? Square? What shape is a tent? Square. 4 corners, 4 edges, 4 stakes. You can look at it like this. You have prayer. That's a stake. That's you talking to God. You have reading the Bible. That's a stake. That's God talking to you. You have fellowship. That's a stake. That's you talking to other believers. And you have 4, you have discipleship. That's growth. How are your 4 corners? 1 out of 4? Well, what if I were to tell you that there's a way to knock out all 4 of those in one shot? There's something you can add to your life that'll knock out 4 corners in one shot. Would you sit up and listen? Would you put your phone down and pay attention for a couple of minutes? Would you nudge your spouse? Send them that secret signal that we're all going to pay attention right now? Every fall we start community groups. We call it Bible study, call it home groups, call it life groups, cell groups, small groups, what have you. Call it whatever you want. There's a flyer in your bulletin. If your neighbor has 2 and you don't have one, reach over and steal theirs. It's that important. You're sitting in Walden Community Church. We are non-denominational, which means we are a self-governing, self-supporting, and we're here for the community. It's our middle name. Oh, I got to tell you this. So I did a wedding yesterday. I actually did 2 weddings yesterday, back to back, an hour. I had an hour break. So I did my second wedding, and it was my favorite one. And then I said goodbye to the bride and groom. Said congratulations. Walked back out, and the wedding coordinator is bringing in this little old lady. And she comes up to me and she says something about how she doesn't look nice for picture taking, and the wedding coordinator says, "No, you look fine." And then she looks at me and she goes, and she puts her hand on my face, and she grabbed both hands. She did that, both hand face, and I don't know who this lady is, right? I'm just thinking, she's like, "I just want to tell you, you did a great job." I'm like, "Oh, thank you, that was nice." She goes, "What denomination are you?" And I was like, "Non-denominational. I'm based out of Montgomery." She's like, "I'm Pentecostal." And I was like, "Go team!" Like that was awesome. So We call ourselves a community church, though, okay? We're a community church. It's our middle name, Walden Community Church. So as such, that means we want to build community. We want to build a beautiful community. And that means work. That means taking a step on Sunday morning and starting to meet and live with the people around you. It means being the church on another night of the week besides Sunday. It means making new friends. It even means letting new people into your life. And it means right now there is a disruption and is knocking on your door. Divine appointment is knocking on your door. Now, you can ignore this and you can go back to life as normal. You can inwardly tell yourself, this isn't for me, this isn't for us, we're not ready, I'll do this another time. Or you can make a change. Husbands, men, talking to you. Is this something that your wife and family need right now? Would this be good for your family? What are you going to put first in your life this fall? What are you going to model for your children about what's important? I want you to consider being a spiritual leader and taking a step. Now, we've put you in small groups in the past. You can certainly get back together with those people. That's fine. I'd prefer it if you tried something different. Here's why. As we grow, we need to fight the urge to get into cliques. It's super hard for new people to break into the church. It's really hard for them to break into the church. We have to be intentional. That's not a word. We have to be intentional about meeting new people. So if you fill out that form, you place it in the tray on your way out, we will do our very best to put you with familiar faces and some new ones. And maybe you can have new best friends, and that's not a bad thing. How big are the groups? I'd say the groups are going to be between 8 and 12 people, okay? That's a small group. Some of y'all had a group of 50 last year. So 8 to 12, okay? That's a good size. How long is this commitment? I want to know what I'm signing up for. Good question. I'd say 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. You're going to end before Christmas break, okay? Somewhere between 4 and 6 and 8 weeks, somewhere in there. You'll probably finish before Christmas busyness grabs you, and then we'll launch again after New Year's. Who leads the group? Probably a volunteer that's in your group, but it won't be hard. Where are you going to meet? You're going to meet in someone's home. You can meet in one home, or you can rotate and say, you guys do this week, I'll do next week. And everyone only has to do it once. And let me just say, it's a great reminder that you need to clean your house. Especially if you volunteer every week. You're like, that's great, because that just means I'll have a clean house every week. That's awesome. What are you going to do? You're going to go through a little booklet. You're going to read the Bible. You're going to eat some good food, probably. You'll laugh a bit. You'll share your lives with each other. And it might take anywhere from an hour, 15 to 2 hours, depending on how long people talk. Your group will set its own times. Your group will set its own hours of the week, okay? Do you have to be a member of Walden Community Church? No. What if I still need more time to think about it? That's fine. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. And like I said, we'll make another opportunity at the beginning of the year. But let me just ask you, how long have you put this off already? How long has it already been when you've said, well, I'll just do this next year? And what does that say about what's important in your life? What counts as treasure in your life, and is it actually satisfying you? Jesus says he has real food. He says he has real abundance. He says he has real joy and real love. Why would you put that off until next year? How could any of us say that soccer or after-school clubs are more important? And what does Pastor David have against soccer? Nothing. I just like baseball better. How about happy hour? Is that where you're needed the most every week? Or do we need you in an authentic and lasting community with other believers? Building something real, building something that will last, building something that's beautiful. Let's pray.